Welcome back, everybody, and this story has just developed fantastically over the last hour or so, and I was going to put off waiting to report on it until tomorrow morning, but I'm just going to go ahead and cover it tonight, and whatever happens tomorrow we'll cover when we get to it then. This shows a story concerning the TSA and the apparent sick calls that are increasing as the duration of the government shutdown continues and they go into their third week without pay. Understandably so. This is a breakdown of the 9 departments affected by the shutdown. Obviously, Homeland Security being the largest, comprising the most employees under that umbrella, with 240,000. The hilarious thing about this is the complaints from TSA agents and calling in sick, being unable to be paid, while Huff Post goes on to report that 44,000 individuals from the Coast Guard are also going out without pay and will not have the option of calling in sick. So as you can see right here, with the DHS-funded labs, roughly 44,000 active Coast Guard members will be working without paychecks until Congress and the White House reach a deal to reopen the government, provide back pay. Obviously, that's a horrible situation. While the military is funded through government shutdowns, paramilitary groups such as the Coast Guard are not. Another 6,000 Coast Guard employees will be further furloughed according to the DHS guidance. That means they won't be working, and any pay for the shutdown period would have to come retroactively through the act of Congress. Now, fortunately for most Coast Guards, deployed troops or those on reserve, they typically have secondary jobs as civilians, and so they're typically substituted by some sort of income. But of course, there's going to be a large percentage of individuals who are not covered by that, and hopefully they are able to get by without that. But it's interesting to compare and contrast the TSA, which calls in sick when their paychecks go without, and these poor individuals in the Coast Guard who are unable to do such. So the original story is reported by USA Today, in which it gives the breakdown, and it talks about these TSA closely monitoring the situation. Callouts began over the holiday period and have increased, but are causing minimal impact given the 51,739 employees supporting the screening process. Now, this is actually a response from the TSA through the DHS, in which they talked about the 2.2 million passenger screenings and 99.8% waiting less than 30 minutes, according to the TSA statement. And this is in response to a CNN report, which can be found here, highlighting that hundreds of TSA screeners working without pay, calling in sick over major airports. And so the CNN report goes on to say that at New York John F. Kennedy International Airport, as many as 170 TSA employees have called out each day of the week. Call-outs have increased by 200 to 300% at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport International, where typically 25 to 30 employees call out from the average shift, according to local TSA officials. So 200 to 300%, that's going to be 75 anywhere up to 300. The incredible thing about this is, you know, that you have this at major airports being reported across the board, but that's not the fantastic part. The fantastic part is the TSA response to the CNN article, as reported by Fox, who never misses a chance to jump down CNN's throat, like CNN would certainly do to Fox if the situation was reversed. But Homeland Security blasts CNN, saying TSA sick out report grossly misrepresented situation at the airport. A Department of Homeland Security spokesman lashed out at CNN on Friday, labeling as fake news network report that hundreds of Transportation Security Administration screeners at the national airports have been staging a sick out this weekend amid the partial government shutdown. In a tweet, DHS spokesman Tyler Holton accused the network of failing to validate its data and not reaching out to the agency for official verification. More fake news from @CNN. Security operations at airports have been impacted by a non-existent sick out. CNN has a cell numbers of multiple TSA public affairs professionals, but rather than validate statistics, they grossly misrepresented them, the tweet read. The TSA, meanwhile, tweeted a more measured response that said employee absences began over the holiday but have a minimal impact on security operations. Well, that's not the claim that CNN made. Call outs began over the holiday period and have increased, but are causing minimal impact given that there are 51,739 employees. Yes, but if you have isolated incidents, or not isolated incidents, a consistent pattern of incidents across individual airports where multiple cases where the employees are calling in sick and increases of 200 to 300%, it's reasonable to conclude that's going to affect holiday processing. The tweet said TSA is grateful for the agents who showed up to work, remain focused on the mission, and respectful to the traveling public. Even in the middle of the shutdown, TSA officers are mandated to work without pay. Really? Even if they're sick? Employee union officials told the New York Times that TSA workers at several major airports have called in sick since the shutdown began on December 22nd. More than 150 called out Friday from Kennedy International Airport in New York, according to the paper. One unnamed federal office said the call-outs seemed to be part of a coordinated protest, but union officials said many employees were called out sick, were most likely looking for alternative employment to make up for lost wages. And why wouldn't they? The shutdown is beginning its third week. The TSA spokesman told the Times that that wait times for passengers to board flights would increase if the call-outs persisted, and that agency is grateful to the agents who showed up to work, remain focused on the mission, and respectful to the traveling public as they continue to the important work necessary to secure the nation's transportation systems. They don't do anything for the security of the national transportation systems. This has been demonstrated over and over and over again by research conducted throughout multiple longitudinal studies. It's ridiculous to make that statement, and I think this is just additional proof that this is a useless department that doesn't do anything other than give the appearance of security. And when the paychecks stop rolling in and they start declining in the numbers that they have, there's no real substantial change in either the security or the processing safety that they provide. It's this kind of thing that I love about a government shutdown like this, because it exposes all of the extra fat in the system that is unneeded, unwarranted, and ultimately undesired. The idea that the American public is to be concerned that they will no longer be harassed at the airport, molested, have their items thrown out, or possibly stolen. I mean, oh horror. I can't imagine being upset about that, and I think it's pretty revealing that the government is concerned by that. The concern over airport security staffing followed speculation last month over whether the Homeland Security Secretary Kristen Nelson would keep her job. TSA Administrator David Pekulowski recently urged President Trump to keep Nelson despite reports that the president has grown frustrated with her leadership. I've worked for Secretary Nielsen over a little over a year now, and in my view, she's been an outstanding Secretary of Homeland Security. Compared to who? Said Pekulowski, according to Washington Examiner. And she has been very, very supportive of me at the TSA Administrator, very interested in our issues, and importantly, very engaged in our workforce. Wow. This is like extended Christmas for the libertarians, I think, just watching all of this play out. And I can't wait to see how long it goes on, and if we're going to, hopefully we'll just see a diminishing absence of these TSA employees until the department is non-existent. We can dream.